Okay, ladies and gentlemen, today we are in the second lecture of this live online PMP exam prep class. Yesterday we discussed about general things about the certification, about the PMI, how to apply for it and all that. That was just necessary information. That was not part of the course as such, but what we are going to start today onwards is what is included in the course. So today I will introduce you to PMBOK, the Guide to Project Management Body of Knowledge 6th edition, and its parts and various chapters and processes and all that. This is going to be the part we'll be discussing today, and we will be discussing the first full chapter of introduction of PMBOK. Right. Let me see. Yeah. The computer might be a bit slow. I don't know why, but it is. Okay. This book has been, this PMBOK has been slightly different from the earlier versions. Probably this is the first time, or probably it was in 5th edition also. They have divided the book into two major parts. Basically, there are three parts, but two major parts. One is still called as a Guide to Project Management Body of Knowledge, and the second part is called the Standard for Project Management. And as I was telling yesterday, we do have the Standard for Program Management, the Standard for Portfolio Management. So similarly, they have set up the Standard for Project Management within the PMBOK. So within the binding of one PMBOK, we get the Guide for Project Management, the Standard for Project Management, and then the third part is about the various appendices, glossaries, and indexes. Now, as far as the Standard for Project Management is concerned, this is written according to the process groups. As Iram was saying yesterday, okay, right. So this is written in accordance with the process groups: initiation, planning, execution, monitoring, control, and close. But still, I feel we can study it according to the process groups. Still, I feel that it is always better to study according to the knowledge areas as per in part 1. Reason being, you are focused on one specific area at one time. You don't have to jump the boat time and again. So we take, for example, we take scope right from the beginning till its culmination, and then we move on to the other knowledge area. But we also understand that the process groups and the knowledge areas are cross-functional, right? They are like a matrix. All the knowledge areas go through all the 5 process groups, and all the 5 process groups are present in all the 10 knowledge areas. Anyways, this is how it is arranged. Part 1, a guide to the project management body of knowledge, is distributed into 13 chapters. And right now what we are discussing is, we are starting off with the chapter of introduction, number 1. After that, we have got 12 more chapters. First 3 chapters of this standard, of this guide, are general in nature. Naturally, introduction is general. Then it discusses in second chapter the environment in which the project operates or exists. So we discuss the environment, and third chapter is about role of the project manager. These are general items, and after we have discussed these 3 chapters, which are classically more important, these 3 chapters are very important because they are laying out the basis for everything. So we certainly take a little more time in explaining these 3 chapters. Anyways, when we move ahead, then we start off with the 10 knowledge areas. But before we start off with the 10 knowledge areas, I would have given you a complete layout how the process groups and knowledge areas interact with each other. So after you have understood that, we will start off with each one of these chapters, starting from integration, scope, schedule, cost, and so on and so forth. So this is how we are going to move ahead with our course. Okay. As far as the standard for project management is concerned, as I said, it is divided in basically according with the process groups. So the first chapter is introduction, and then the next 5 chapters are the process groups: initiating process group, planning process group, executing process group, monitoring and controlling process group, and closing process group. This all is available in the standard. Iram, if you want to study it accordingly, you can refer to the book and you can see, um, yes, all the processes are defined as per the process group, but you will yourself understand and see that that is not an efficient way of preparing, efficient way of understanding. That is exactly why I emphasize on the guide part and not on the standard part. In the appendices, glossaries, and index, naturally, this consists of a number of things. First of all, uh, the first 2 appendices are about the changes in the 6th edition, from the 5th edition to 6th edition, what has changed, and who are the people who have contributed to it. Appendix 3, X3, is about agile, iterative, and hybrid project environment. Appendix X4 is about summary of key concepts for knowledge areas. So every knowledge area, there are 10 knowledge areas. At the end of every knowledge area, there are certain concepts. In the beginning of every knowledge area, there are certain key concepts earmarked. Those are summarized in the Appendix X4. Then in every chapter we have got a summary of tailoring considerations for that knowledge area, how we can tailor that knowledge area, though this is available for each chapter, but at the end they have summarized it. Similarly, all the tools and techniques used in this standard and guide will be listed down in the appendix X6. So these references X3 to X6 are good references for your exam preparation and for understanding things, but naturally, as I said, PMBOK might not be enough for the preparations of PMP exam, but this is a good reference guide. This is good foundation reference for you. You may have to refer to other books, other standards and things, but at the same time, you have to study PMBOK anyways. Okay, coming over to the part 1, which we will be covering in detail, that is a guide to the project management body of knowledge, 6th edition, and the first chapter is introduction, right? So what do we cover in the chapter of introduction? Let's see. Okay. In this chapter, first of all, we will have an overview, and the purpose of this guide will be defined. Why are we studying this? Why there was a need to establish and write down this guide? This is further divided into 3 parts. First of all, the standard for project management. What is the standard? What is the common vocabulary? And then what are the code of ethics and professional conduct? This is the first time that the code of ethics and professional conduct has formally been included into the PMBOK guide. Previously, they were separately issued by PMI. They were not considered part of PMBOK, but this is the first time this has been made part of PMBOK. Then we have got some basic definitions or basic discussion on foundation elements, in which it includes projects, importance of project management, meaning we'll talk about projects and project management, and then the relationship between the project, the program, portfolio, operations, etc. Then we will discuss the various components of the guide, how the guide is distributed, divided. Then, as I said, we do have an appendix about the tailoring considerations, and every chapter has got tailoring considerations defined into it. So, what is tailoring? We will discuss it in the first chapter. Project management business documents, there is a little discussion on those project management business documentations. So, this is what we are going to be covering in this first chapter. In the very beginning of the book, it has given certain examples of projects, and probably that is not much you can always understand what a project is. But you see, the knowledge of project management, whether formal or informal, has been existing from time immemorial. The Egyptian pyramids, that is one of the huge projects which somebody did long time back. Olympic games which go on after very regularly, there is a huge project behind it. Great Wall of China, Taj Mahal, or anything, all of these ventures which are listed here, whether they are producing a product, a service, a result, or whatever, they are one-time efforts. The pyramid were created once and for all. Olympic game, one Olympic game, say it is happening in London, it will happen in London only for this time, and maybe they prepare for 5 years for that. So that whole 5-year planning and execution of this Olympic game, etc., this is one huge project. Great Wall of China, there is only one Great Wall of China. That was constructed only once, but that might have taken decades. So that much time was spent in construction of this Great Wall. That was one project. There is only one Taj Mahal. So what I am trying to say is that projects are unique in nature, and they are one-time efforts. They are challenges. They are not routine work. We don't create walls of China every day. We don't create the pyramids of Giza every day. So whatever we are doing, which is unique, which is to be done as a special effort and for one time only, that's such like challenges we undertake, for which we do not have a precedence also. We do not know exactly how we will do it. So we plan for it. We use many, our experience and our thinking and our creative skills and logical skills and everything, and we contemplate how we are going to go about it. As far as operations are concerned, the story is very different. In operations, we do have a standard operating procedure. We know what to do and how to do it. We are just to follow the SOPs, standard operating procedures. But in projects, we do not have any SOP. We can have certain guidelines like PMBOK or something, some policies given by the organization that you must consider these points in your project management, but they can't tell us exactly how we are going to be undertaking our project, because that has to be seen and planned by the project manager. Though the sponsors will approve it, but basically this is the job of the project manager to plan it. So every project is going to be unique, a different situation. So there cannot be one SOP which can govern all. Okay. The outcome of these projects, whatever they are, the result, it was the result of leaders and managers applying some kind of project management practices, whatever they know of at that point in time. At the time of the pyramids of Giza, some practices would have been there. When the Taj Mahal was being created, some expertise or practices were there. Maybe they're more technical oriented or management oriented, we don't know. But yes, they did it. They did it. So there must be some practices they were following, some principles, some processes, some tools, some techniques, and so on and so forth. So there had been some knowledge base. What we can do is, we can learn from history and we can extract that information from history and see what still applies to us and what has been those practices, principles, processes, tools, and techniques which people have been using from time immemorial in conducting their projects. A standard like PMI exactly does that. What PMI has done, it has not only looked into the historical data of how the projects have been done, but also how the projects are being done right now worldwide. Now, that is a big subject. We are trying to address it globally, meaning various different industries, different countries, different cultures. You know, all of them, they have different ways of addressing different problems, right? How can we find one single method or one single guideline to bring all of this common knowledge together? That was a very uphill task. So first of all, gathering the lessons learned from all of the history, then putting all of the cultures and everything together and extracting the current practices out of it. These were huge challenges. So as you increase your frame of reference, you include more people into it, or more time, more depth in time, more generic you have to be. Like you see, if you have included industries of construction and IT and this and that, so many industries, so there will be certain project management practices akin to construction only, which may not be applicable to IT or other areas. Therefore, we may have to drop certain common practices which only apply to certain areas and not all. So, as we collect this data, as we try to develop a guide of project management, we will have to drop certain practices which are not common to all industry or globally. Therefore, this standard becomes more generic in nature. I hope you understand my point, how this is more generic in nature. Right. Then we have key skills and knowledge. Whatever projects has been listed in front of you, the managers of these projects use a set of key skills and applied knowledge. Something, they must have had some knowledge. That's why somebody assigned them to these huge, prestigious projects. And that was to satisfy their customer, whomsoever, maybe the person who was getting Taj Mahal constructed, he might have been convinced by somebody that this person is a very good, constructor or builder, and I should hire him. So he should be able to satisfy the customer and other people involved in and affected by the project. By the mid-20th century, project managers began the work of seeking recognition for project management as a profession. So, as I said, earliest was PMI, 1969, they started off, and others also followed very, very quickly. And it was a very hot time. By 1970, there were a number of bodies in the world who were mid-70s. There were a number of bodies who were actually working on project management worldwide. But PMI was leading them. One aspect of this work involved obtaining agreement on the content of body of knowledge for project management, because we were talking about the generic nature of the thing. I hope you understand my point, that as I increase my base, I have to leave out certain specialty items and I have to be more generalized. So this BOK, body of knowledge, ultimately became the project management body of knowledge, famously known as PMBOK guide. Project Management Institute produced a baseline of charts and glossaries for the PMBOK. So basically, whatever is included in this PMBOK, this actually provides you guideline. It is not a standard operating procedure. Remember, standard operating procedures are not applicable to project because they are for operations, right? So they are for operations, and projects are different. So for project management, we can't have some standards set. We can't have some standards set, I mean standard operating procedures set. Therefore, we need to have otherwise some basic guideline. So the standard for project management or the guideline have to be generic in nature. I hope you understand this point. So this is what we are trying to encompass in PMBOK. Project managers soon realized that no single book could contain the entire PMBOK. That's why we call it a guide to project management body of knowledge, because it is the doorway. It describes the various things which could be referred to, and that is exactly why I was saying PMBOK is not everything for the exam. There are a lot many things which they may be making questions from elsewhere. Why? Because this is the doorway. This just describes what to do and what not to do. How to do it may not have been explained in PMBOK, and for that you may have to refer to other books. That's why we do not call it PMBOK, we call it a guide to project management body of knowledge. I hope this point is clear. Okay. PMI defines project management body of knowledge as a term that describes the knowledge within the profession of project management. So when we are talking about PMBOK, remember, it is not a book about operations. It is not a book about finance. It is all about the profession of project management. So this is very specific. This body of knowledge applies to the profession of project management. Although it may explain differences with operations, with other things, but at the same time, this is specifically written for the purposes of doing better projects. The project management body of knowledge includes proven traditional practices that are widely applied as well as innovative practices that are emerging in the profession. This is a very important point, because whatever we have learned from the history and what is still valid, that is the proven traditional practices, and we will keep following them. But at the same time, we will keep dropping those traditions which are no more applicable. So we have to walk with the evolution, what is happening, what is emerging in the market. So innovative practices, we have to be quick at adopting. Exactly, that's why after every 4 years, when a PMBOK goes through one version to the next, it changes. And the sixth edition is an example of a big shift from traditional project management to agile project management. Although this is not a complete shift, but at least PMBOK has realized the need that agile can be applied to all kinds of projects in addition to software, IT, etc. It cannot be applied to any project like construction or whatever. Although 6th edition does not describe in a lot of detail how we are going to do it, but it provides a little guideline for each knowledge area and each process group, how we can somehow translate it into agile. But in 7th edition, the next edition which is coming, that is going to be even more oriented towards agile. So things are going agile. The traditional project manager soon, in next 1 decade or so, is going to vanish. So things are evolving. So these innovative practices are being adopted by the standard. So you can always rely on PMBOK, this PMBOK guide, that if you are studying the current version, you are studying the latest technology in project management. Okay. Okay, so this body of knowledge does not only refer to the uh, published and the research, published research, but there are things which are written in unpublished articles or in several books and other things. They also all are referred here. So there are many books written which are not by some research authors or other people, but they're very full of knowledge books. So those may also have been referred. So this could be published work or unpublished work. Hold on, there's some problem with my computer. Okay. As I said, this body of knowledge is constantly evolving. With every edition, there is something new, and we are moving on with the innovation going on in the market, the evolution going on. This PMBOK guide, it identifies a subset of project management body of knowledge that is generally recognized as good practices. Let me explain good practices to you. What is a good practice, and why not best practice? We are talking about the standard for project management, and we are not talking about the best practices. Why so? Can anyone help me on that? Please raise hands. Why not best practices and why good practices? Who can answer me? जी मोहम्मद अली आप बताएंगे?
Sir, I think as you said before, the best practices are on the basis of the standards. You need to follow that. Means it should be, what a good practice is like a kind of guideline. This is what I understand. Means this
Okay,
is what I can differentiate.
right. We discussed that. Anyone else? Saulat, आप बताएंगे कि क्या what do we mean by not having best practices here and only the good practices?
Sir,
आप ये बताइए कि बेस्ट प्रैक्टिस आप किसको कहते हैं? क्या होती है बेस्ट प्रैक्टिस? जी सौलत. ओके, एनीवन एल्स? उमर बताओ आप.
सर मेरे ख्याल से जो बेस्ट प्रैक्टिस अगर हम बात करें तो वो तो ये होगी कि उसमें मतलब आपने इतनी ज्यादा चीजें रिफाइन कर चुके हैं कि उसमें मजीद आप कोई ऐसा क्लैरिटी की जरूरत नहीं है. वो आप एक स्टैंडर्डाइज चीज कर दी है. मतलब आपने फॉर एग्जांपल जैसे आईएसओ का, आईएसओ तो डिफरेंट है. मतलब आपने एक कहना है कि एक स्ट्रक्चर बनाना है तो आपने इसी मेथोडोलॉजी से बनाना है. लेकिन जो गुड प्रैक्टिस है उसमें एरिया ऑफ इम्प्रूवमेंट कंसिस्टेंटली बहुत ज्यादा रहती हैं कि मतलब बेस्ड अपॉन प्रैक्टिसेस आप कहते हैं कि ये भी ऐसे हो सकता है, ये अप्रोच भी है, ये अप्रोच भी है, ये अप्रोच भी है. लेकिन जो बेस्ट प्रैक्टिस है उसमें मतलब नैरो डाउन हो जाते हैं और आप कहते हैं कि आपने यही करना है और ऐसे ही ठीक होगा. तो आपके पास मतलब वो जो फ्रीडम है डिफरेंट अप्रोचेस की या ज्यादा एरिया ऑफ इम्प्रूवमेंट की वो नहीं रहती. मेरे ख्याल से ये चीज है.
ओके, गोइंग बैक टू सौलत. सौलत आप कुछ कह रहे थे? जी सौलत. सौलत आप कुछ बात खड़ा किया था आपने? अच्छा, वकास आप बताइए. वकास, कैन यू हियर मी?
सर आवाज आ रही? सॉरी सर, मैंने माइक अनम्यूट नहीं किया था.
अच्छा अच्छा, जी बोलिए.
सर मैंने जो अंडरस्टैंड किया गुड प्रैक्टिसेस और बेस्ट प्रैक्टिसेस में, ये तो गुड प्रैक्टिसेस सर ये लगता है काफी सिचुएशंस में ये वर्केबल है. और पिछली पास्ट हिस्ट्री को देखते हुए उसमें से जो रिजल्ट्स ड्रॉ आउट किए कि इस वर्केबल मेथोडोलॉजी में काफी सिचुएशंस में जो रिजल्ट्स रीप हो रहे हैं वो बड़े आसान से आप एग्जीक्यूट करा सकते हैं, जबकि बेस्ट प्रैक्टिसेस में ये होगा कि उसमें वर्केबिलिटी का थोड़ा इशू आएगा, एग्जीक्यूशन जो है वो एक सर्टेन सिचुएशन में होती है, तो लेकिन रिजल्ट्स उसके बड़े अच्छे होते हैं।
ओके, चलिए मैं इसको डिस्कस करता हूँ। ये मैंने इरम का हाथ नहीं देखा, रेज द हैंड, प्लीज इरम आप बताइएगा। जी इरम, इरम आपको अपना माइक अपनी साइड से अनम्यूट करना होगा, फिर आवाज आएगी।
हेलो
जी जी
जी सर, आई थिंक कि जो गुड प्रैक्टिसेस है उसमें यही है कि जो PMBOK में जो रेफर्ड पॉलिसी प्रैक्टिस टूल्स एंड टेक्निक्स है, इनपुट्स है या आउटपुट्स है, हम उनको लेकर ही अगर आगे चले और हम अब जो हमारा आउटकम आए, जो रिजल्ट आए, वो आपकी जो सक्सेस को इन्हेंस करे, तो वो गुड प्रैक्टिसेस कहलाएगा। और बेस्ट प्रैक्टिसेस, गुड प्रैक्टिसेस और बेस्ट प्रैक्टिसेस में मुझे लगता है माइनर सा ही कोई डिफरेंस है, जो जब आप इसे गुड प्रैक्टिसेस को ही इनहैंस, मतलब आप अगर आप ऑर्गेनाइजेशन में चलाते जा रहे हैं तो वही बेस्ट प्रैक्टिसेस कहलाएंगी। बेस्ट प्रैक्टिसेस का कोई कंसेप्ट नहीं समझ आ रहा, लेकिन गुड का आई थिंक यही है।
ओके ओके, चलिए मैं इसके ऊपर डिस्कशन करता हूँ अभी। We have got a new person sitting here, यासिर परवेज। यासिर परवेज, आप पहले तो इंट्रोड्यूस करवाएंगे अपने आप को।
Assalamualaikum sir, I am working in Oman as a project coordinator. Can you hear me sir?
जी जी बिल्कुल आवाज आ रही है आपकी।
जी sir, I am working as a project coordinator in one government organization. I have different types of projects related to government, strategic projects like border posts, etc. So
Okay.
from last 7-8 years I am working in Oman as a project coordinator over here.
ओमान में हैं आप, अच्छा। तो
जी
मतलब
sir.
हाउ
जी sir.
डिड यू नो लर्न अबाउट आवर दिस कोर्स?
Sir, you are specifically asking about PMP or about your course?
नहीं, ये इस कोर्स के बारे में।
Like what you are doing?
जी जी
सर PMP के बारे में कैसे पता चला?
नहीं नहीं नहीं, ये जो आज कोर्स हो रहा है यहाँ पर, ये आपने कैसे ज्वाइन किया है आप?
सर
जी
जी सर, मैं आपके साथ जैसे पहले सर 3-4 महीना 5 महीने पहले जब मैं पाकिस्तान आया था तो मैं आपके साथ इन टच था फॉर क्लासेस, जो कि आपका प्रोग्राम था शायद नस्ट में क्लासेस डिलीवर करने के लिए। लेकिन उसके बाद वो उस टाइम वो स्केड्यूल ऑर्गेनाइज नहीं हो सका, एंड थैंक्स टू यू सर, थैंक्स टू यू, आपने याद रखा और दोबारा और मुझे चांस दिया कि मैं इसको ज्वाइन कर लूं। एंड आई वाज लाइक प्रिपेयरिंग फ्रॉम माय साइड, but I was what I was thinking, like I should get this 35 hours contact course. So alhamdulillah I got the chance, so at least I joined that.
चलिए जी, वेलकम ऑन बोर्ड। अभी कुछ एक दो लोग और भी शायद ज्वाइन हमारे साथ कर जाएंगे, और तो
इंशाल्लाह सर।
थैंक यू वेरी मच। अच्छा जी, लेट मी गेट बैक टू द डिस्कशन ऑफ गुड प्रैक्टिसेस। दिस इज वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट टू अंडरस्टैंड what are good practices and what are best practices. Traditionally, when I go to an organization and they want me to lecture on project management, what they are expecting is that I will tell them some best practices, some few points like 7 most effective reasons to build the organization, or something like that. 10 points which will raise the organization to the top level, something like that. So they are all looking for best practices. Nobody wants to learn the detail about anything. They just want a magic word, a potion that somebody will just revolutionize them by something. So uh, people are not really interested in good practices. They are more interested in the best practices. Naturally, best practices are the optimum what we can have. But the thing is, if you are a bad organization, your practices are extremely bad, everything you are doing is wrong, how can you just adopt 10 best practices and be like the leading organization? Is it possible? First of all, if you are bad and you are doing everything wrong, you must learn what is wrong and what is right and start doing things right. That means you cannot jump from bad to best. First of all, you have to improve yourself to the level of good. You have to remove all your bad practices and start doing good practices. And it is a difference between good and bad. If you are good, only then do you stand a chance to one day become the best. I hope this very basic definition did explain what I wanted to say. So do not go for best practices. First of all, learn what you are doing wrong and what are the good practices to do those things. Okay, I hope this point is driven home. Now my second point. Whatever people are doing in the market, in the industry, these are their practices. Whatever they are doing. As far as the project management is concerned, these are their practices. I'm not saying good or bad practices. They are their practices, right? And there are many practices which are common to many people. You know, hundreds of people are doing project management, but there are several practices what they are doing. Some of them are common to all. So these common practices are repeatable. That means, everybody does that. Therefore, first job of PMI or a body like that is to find out the commonalities, the things which are done by all. So these common practices are basically filtered out and brought together. But these common practices could not be included in the body of knowledge just because we still need to filter them further to find what is good and what is bad. That means there is a criteria for good and bad to be set before we can add them to PMBOK. Because we don't want that an unethical practice or a bad practice becomes part of our standard. Therefore, the line between the good and bad is drawn, and anything which marginally passes that test becomes be known as the good practice. So we are not only generally recognize the commonalities, the common practices from all over the industry or history, but we are trying to draw a line and only pick up the good practices. All good practices are generally part of PMBOK. And once we talk about a standard, we don't talk about the best practices because a standard is not a competition. Standard is just how to do the things right. So good practices, our standard, our guide is composed of good practices, not best practices. But as Inam said, out of these good practices, when you mature and you become experts in doing things and you compete with others and you prove yourself to be better in project management, your organization is better than others, when it is a competition and you show your excellence in certain practices, only then can you be declared as owner of certain best practices. So until and unless there is no competition, you cannot identify the best practices. So generally, PMBOK does not carry out the competitions. ये मुकाबला नहीं है. PMBOK is just a difference between good and bad, and whatever is there in PMBOK, take it for granted that these are the good practices. Right? And by good practices, I do not mean that they may apply equally to everyone. This is the guideline. This is the recommendation. Anybody getting into the field of project management, this is the general guideline for them. They may or may not follow it. But this guideline, to the best of our knowledge, defines what is good for project managers. And if you can follow this, you are definitely going to be benefited. But if you think that the specific situation of your project does not allow you to adopt a certain practice given in the standard, you are at liberty to tailor that requirement to according to your needs. I hope I have clarified this point. Anyone having any doubts about it? Please raise hands. This was an important point. That's why I'm asking you. उमर आपका तो हाथ खैर खड़ा ही रहता है, और कोई बताए? Anyone else? Okay, if this point is driven home, very good. Charlotte says it's okay. Right. So let me move on then. So this was, I defined what is a good practice, and it says it means there is a general agreement that the application of the knowledge, skills, tools, and techniques to project management process can enhance the chances of success over many projects in delivering expected business value and results. So this is good practice, that these are the practices, right? We must have a namaz break. So let us break for 10 minutes and then we'll be back.